There will come a time in your life when words will pierce like knives, when betrayal won't come with a warning, when silence will weigh heavier than noise. And in that hour, what will protect you is not a shield, not a sword, but your mind. Epictetus, born a slave and forged by suffering, understood one eternal truth, that no one has power over you unless you give it to them. He didn't preach from a marble hall. He spoke from the raw edges of life. And the lessons he gave weren't designed to please, they were meant to liberate. Let's begin. You are disturbed not by events, but by your judgment of them. Let that sink in. The world will hurl insults, chaos, and unexpected tragedy. But none of that can touch the sanctuary within, unless you open the gates. Your reaction is your vulnerability, not the event itself. Someone mocks you? That's their noise. You internalizing it, that's your mistake. The second lesson is about control. Epictetus taught that some things are up to us, and some things are not. To confuse the two is to suffer. You cannot stop the storm. But you can anchor your ship. Wasting time on what's beyond your influence is like chasing shadows. Learn to focus only on your own reasoned choices, your own actions. That's your power. That's your domain. And then comes adversity. Most men crumble under it. But the Stoic doesn't merely survive pain. He uses it. Hardship is the fire that tempers the iron of the soul. Epictetus said, "Difficulties show what men are." Think of your life's worst moments, not as curses, but as invitations. Invitations to become untouchable, invincible, unshaken. He also warned us not to place our happiness in external things. Wealth, praise, relationships, all of them are borrowed. And anything borrowed can be taken back. So why cling to what isn't yours? The Stoic plants his joy in virtue, in discipline, integrity, and wisdom, because those are the only possessions no thief can touch. Do not seek to be understood. Seek to understand. When people lash out, they reveal their wounds, their fear, their ignorance. If you respond with anger, you've stooped to their level. But if you observe them with quiet compassion, you win. Because true strength doesn't shout. It listens. And then there is desire. Epictetus didn't tell us to suppress it. He told us to master it. Cravings are chains. He who is ruled by desire is a slave, no matter how rich or admired. But the one who governs himself, he is free in any circumstance, even in chains. Pain and loss are inevitable, but suffering is optional. Do not say, "I have lost it," Epictetus told his students. Say instead, "I have given it back." Whether it's a loved one, a fortune, or your health, none of it was promised forever. Stoicism doesn't make us cold, it makes us clear. And clarity is the root of peace. Let people talk. Let them hate, let them praise, let them judge. Your task is not to dance for their approval or bleed for their affection. Your task is to be a fortress of reason, of calm, of moral purpose. The world is noisy, but you don't have to echo it. So when the world pushes, do not flinch. When it tempts, do not chase. When it wounds, do not howl. Simply stand. Like a mountain. Like the man Epictetus envisioned. Scarred, yes, but not broken. Bruised, but never bowed. And in this stillness, in this inward silence, something extraordinary happens. You begin to notice what others miss. While they scramble for validation, you stand in quiet certainty. While they rage against fate, you adjust your sails. You see through the illusion that the world owes you comfort, fairness, or recognition. Epictetus taught that none of these are your birthright. What is yours is your ability to choose how you respond. And in that choice lies ultimate power. Power not over others, but over yourself. This is where most people fail. They believe power is external. Money, status, control over people. But true power is inner mastery. The ability to look your own impulses in the eye, and not flinch. The discipline to wake early when the bed is warm. The resolve to remain silent when your ego screams to be heard. This isn't repression. This is refinement. And refinement, Epictetus knew, is the path to freedom. Freedom isn't the absence of constraints, it's the presence of self-command. To act with reason when the crowd loses its mind. To hold the line when others betray their values. To endure ridicule without bitterness. That is freedom. And once you taste it, you'll wonder how you ever lived in chains. But the road there is narrow. It requires vigilance. You must watch your thoughts like a hawk. You must train your emotions as a soldier sharpens his sword. You must practice discomfort, not to suffer, but to grow immune to its sting. When others seek luxury, you practice simplicity. When others chase comfort, you lean into challenge. When others react, you reflect. This isn't asceticism, it's armor. You don't renounce the world. You simply stop being owned by it. Because the untouchable man is not emotionless. He simply chooses which emotions deserve to be fed. He feels sorrow, but doesn't drown in it. He feels joy, but doesn't cling to it. He feels anger, but does not act from it. He owns his emotions. They do not own him. And in this inner discipline lies an ancient peace, a quiet triumph that no applause can offer and no insult can steal. You'll find yourself walking through storms with a steady gaze. You'll hear lies and feel no need to defend. You'll be attacked and feel no urge to retaliate. Because you'll know what Epictetus knew, that no one can harm a man who has mastered himself. The world will remain the same. Cruel, chaotic, unfair. But you will move through it like a blade through water. Unbothered, clear, unshakable. Not because you've hardened, but because you've awakened. Because you finally understand the deepest Stoic truth. That it was never about controlling the world. It was always about controlling yourself. And once you begin to live from that place, from that inner citadel that Epictetus called the seat of the will, everything changes. You no longer beg life for mercy. You meet it on equal terms. Misfortune? You greet it like an old sparring partner. Insult? You nod at it like a gust of wind brushing past your shoulder. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" And you begin to ask, "What am I being trained for?" Because life, to the Stoic, is not a theater for comfort, it is a forge. And every blow is a lesson. Every loss, a teacher. Every disappointment, an invitation to rise above what is petty and small in you. You don't resent the struggle. You refine yourself through it. And as the days pass, you become less like the man who flinched and reacted, and more like the one who watches quietly, chooses carefully, and walks deliberately. People will notice the change, but they won't understand it. They'll say you've become distant, too calm, too detached. But what they're really seeing is something rare, someone who no longer needs the world to behave in order to remain at peace. Because your peace is no longer at the mercy of mood swings, or news headlines, or the approval of strangers. You've stepped outside that game. You've stepped into your own sovereignty. And this is what Epictetus meant when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." It's not about coldness. It's about clarity. It's not about rejecting life. It's about embracing it fully, without being consumed by it. So when grief comes, you bow, but you do not collapse. When pleasure comes, you enjoy, but you do not cling. When chaos reigns, you act, but you do not panic. You've trained for this. Not once, not occasionally, but every single day. In the small choices. The quiet battles. The invisible victories that no one sees. And now, when life tries to shake you, It finds nothing to grip. No weak point. No unguarded door. Because you've done the inner work. You've made yourself untouchable, not by escaping the world, but by rising above its noise. And perhaps that's the greatest power of all. To live in a world that demands reaction, and choose stillness. To walk through fire, and not burn. To be wounded, and not hate. Because in this stillness, something profound begins to emerge. Not arrogance, not apathy, but presence. A grounded presence that does not sway with every emotion, that does not leap at every pleasure or retreat from every pain. You become like the ocean, deep, vast, powerful, but calm on the surface, even when storms rage above. And people will feel it. They won't be able to explain it, but they'll sense it when you walk into a room. They'll feel the weight of someone who doesn't need anything from them. Someone who cannot be manipulated by flattery, nor broken by criticism. Someone who doesn't chase, doesn't cling, doesn't crumble. Because you've built your life not on shifting sands, but on bedrock. The bedrock of reason. The bedrock of virtue. The bedrock of inner freedom. And that, above all, is what Stoicism teaches. Not just how to survive the world, but how to move through it untouched. To see clearly. To choose wisely. To stand, not because nothing threatens you, but because you are no longer threatened by what does. And this is not a finish line. It's a path. A discipline. A way of being. Every morning, you renew the commitment. You remind yourself, what is mine? My reasoned choice. What is not? Everything else. You train your attention like a warrior sharpens his sword, not to react, but to respond. Not to be tossed around by opinion, but to move by principle. You learn to let go, not out of weakness, but because you finally understand the weight of things not meant to be carried. And you begin to live with a kind of silent elegance. You speak less, but mean more. You need less, but feel more whole. You fear less, but act more decisively. You stop seeking peace and realize you are peace when you stop resisting what you cannot control and start living in harmony with what is. And in this harmony, Epictetus' ancient voice echoes through time, not as a command, but as a whisper. You may fetter my leg, but my will, not even Zeus can overcome. That is the measure of the untouchable man. Not his wealth, not his fame, but his self-possession. And when you meet hardship next, and it will come, you will not ask to be spared. You will look it in the eye and say, I've been preparing for you. And you'll mean it. You have not become less human. You have become more. Because when you reach that level of inner mastery, you no longer live in fear of what's coming. You welcome it. You understand that every difficulty is another round in the arena, every insult a chance to rise above, every loss a test of detachment. And these are no longer threats, they're rites of passage. Each one refining you, stripping away what's weak, unnecessary, false. You no longer dread change. You become change. And that's when true power settles in, not loud, not boastful, but unshakable. People argue. You observe. They boast. You act. They complain. You endure. Because what shakes them cannot touch you anymore. You realize something else, something almost tragic, but freeing, that most people will never do this work. Most will spend their lives reacting, demanding, blaming. Most will never look within. They'll chase distractions, chase applause, chase pleasure, and call it living. But you have chosen something harder. You've chosen to be disciplined in a world that worships indulgence. You've chosen to be silent in a culture addicted to noise. You've chosen to walk alone when the crowd runs wild. And yes, it will be lonely. At times, brutally so. But solitude is not suffering for the Stoic. It is strength. It is the quiet forge where identity is shaped, tested, strengthened. While others lose themselves in the noise of the world, You find yourself in the silence of your soul. There's a strange beauty in that kind of life. It's not glamorous. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need a stage. It moves with quiet intensity, with conviction, with honor, and eventually others will see it. Not all, but a few. The ones who are ready. They'll come not because you shouted louder, but because you stood still when the world trembled. They'll ask, "How did you do it?" And you'll smile, not with pride, but with understanding. Because you'll know what it took. You'll know the battles fought in silence, the temptations resisted, the nights spent in deep reflection. And you'll know that none of it was wasted. Everything, the pain, the patience, the practice, it all brought you here. Here, where nothing owns you. Here, where no one can break you. Here, where you are finally, utterly, free. Not free from the world, but free in it. And in that freedom, you don't escape life. You finally begin to live it. And now, as the world continues its relentless pace, scrolling, shouting, chasing shadows, you walk slower. You breathe deeper. You observe more. Because you are no longer in the storm. You are watching it pass. You've cultivated something rare. Not perfection, but presence. Not arrogance, but awareness. And the more you train yourself in these Stoic principles, the less the world owns of you. You've begun to understand that you are not your past. You are not your pain. You are not your possessions, your failures, or your praise. You are the still point behind all of it, the awareness that sees, decides, endures. And from this place, you begin to act differently. You speak less, but your words carry weight. You promise little, but you deliver without fail. You expect nothing, but appreciate everything. You become the man Epictetus believed could exist. A man who, even in chains, is freer than emperors. A man who, though tested by fire, does not burn. A man who stands not above others, but above his own ego. And when death whispers, as it always does, it will not find you afraid. It will find you ready. Because you have not lived your life in avoidance. You have not wasted your days in trivial pursuits. You have lived deliberately. You have lived with honor. You have lived with a soul that was never for sale. And so, when your time comes, you will go as you lived. Come, clear, untouchable. And long after you are gone, long after your voice has faded, those who knew you, or simply heard of you, will remember. Not because you conquered nations, but because you conquered yourself. And in that victory, you left behind no statues, no titles, only something far more powerful. An example. A quiet, eternal whisper that says, "There is another way to live, and it begins within." And that example, silent, steady, immovable, will ripple outward like a stone dropped in still water. Not with noise, but with impact. Someone will see how you held your ground while others ran. How you remained kind without being soft. How you stood firm without becoming cruel. And in you, they will glimpse the strength they forgot they were capable of. Not everyone will understand. Most will pass it by, distracted, too tangled in their own noise. But one, just one, might pause, might wonder, might begin. And in that moment, your example becomes more than memory. It becomes momentum. That's the quiet legacy of the Stoic. Not fame, not worship, but transformation. And if you're listening to this now, maybe that's what you were meant for. Not to be the loudest voice in the room, not to command armies, not to amass fortune, but to master the only kingdom that ever mattered, yourself. Because the greatest revolution isn't fought out there in the streets, it's fought in the silence of your own heart. And what Epictetus gave us wasn't just words. He gave us a mirror that asks, are you ruled by the world, or do you rule yourself? Do you own your thoughts, or do they own you? Have you trained your mind like a blade, or left it to rust? Because life will not wait. It will press in. It will test. It will tear. And if you're not ready, if you haven't prepared, then it won't matter how much you've read, how many quotes you've memorized, how loudly you speak. The test will come, and only one thing will answer: your character. So, let this not be just another video. Let it be a call, a challenge, a turning point. Let it be the day you stopped blaming the world and started building the fortress within. Because somewhere in this loud, chaotic, distracted age, we need men and women who walk with stillness, who choose with wisdom, who speak with fire but act with peace. We need the untouchable, and that can be you. Not someday, not if, no. Right here, in the next breath, in the next choice, in the quiet moment after this voice fades, when it's just you, and the life you're shaping. And when that voice fades, when the screen goes dark and the silence returns, what you do next will define you. Not what you felt, not what you agreed with, not the momentary spark of inspiration, but the action. Because Stoicism isn't philosophy for the bookshelf. It's a weapon, a shield, a compass. It is meant to be lived when no one's watching, when the pressure builds, when the emotions surge, when the world pushes you to abandon who you are for what is easy. In that hour, remember Epictetus. Not the man as history remembers him, but the soul that chose strength in slavery, clarity in chaos, dignity in defeat. He had nothing, no title, no riches, no fame. But he had command of himself, and that made him unbreakable. You are not beneath that. You are not too far gone. You are not too weak or too late. You are in training. Every hard conversation you avoid but face. Every emotion you want to act on but restrain. Every distraction you silence. Every small victory, however invisible to the world, builds the invisible fortress within. And brick by brick, day by day, you become the kind of soul who cannot be moved. You stop craving peace, and you become it. You stop chasing power, and you embody it. You stop fearing death, because you've finally learned how to live. The path will never be easy, but it is yours. And once you take that first honest step inward, toward discipline, toward presence, toward truth, nothing out there can ever own you again. So walk forward, not with haste, not with arrogance, but with calm, steady, deliberate strength. Let the world do what it will. Let the storms rage. Let the critics shout. Let fate test you. Because now you no longer need to be spared. And as you walk forward, through storms, through silence, through victories no one sees, you begin to notice something almost imperceptible. You're no longer reacting. You're responding. You're no longer driven by impulse, but guided by intention. Where others reach for distraction, you reach for stillness. Where they grasp for more, you let go. Where they fall apart, you remain whole. Not because life has become easier, but because you have become deeper. This is the hidden fruit of the Stoic path. It doesn't shout. It doesn't glitter. But in time, it changes everything. You don't win louder arguments. You stop needing to argue. You don't dominate others. You've stopped trying to control what was never yours. You don't escape suffering. You stop fearing it. And that changes how you carry yourself. There's a gravity to you now. A presence. Not built on volume, but on virtue. Not on armor, but on clarity. You've become the eye within the storm, the one fixed point in a world addicted to motion. Others will sense it. Not all. But the few who do will be drawn, not to your words, but to your way of being. They won't call it Stoicism. They'll call it strength, or peace, or mystery. But you'll know what it really is: mastery. Mastery of self, of emotion, of ego, of expectation. A quiet mastery, hard-won in lonely moments and daily disciplines. You will still stumble. You will still feel pain. You will still be tested. That never ends. But now, when it comes, you'll face it with your feet firmly planted. You'll breathe. You'll reflect. You'll act with purpose. Not because you're trying to be strong, but because strength has become your nature. You've stopped asking the world to change, and you've changed yourself. And in doing so, you've become untouchable, not in arrogance, but in truth. So go. Go forward into the noise, into the chaos, into the unknown. And when the winds howl, when fate turns its gaze toward you, when the world presses its weight against your chest, stand still, breathe deep, and remember, you were built for this. You've trained for this. You are ready. You are ready. That's where it begins.